welcome to our November meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Perkins will lead us will give the invocation, and Mr. Larson will lead us in the pledge. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are thankful for this evening that we can meet in favorable circumstances. We are grateful for our teachers and our students and those who work to educate, and we pray that thou will bless them, that they will learn the concepts and be able to teach the concepts that are set before them. We pray for those who are sick or struggling with poor health, that they will be nourished and brought back to good health. Pray for moisture upon our dry lands. Thankful for that we've received. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, item 2.2, wrong one. 3.2, recognition of legendary staff members.
Madam President, members of the board, if you want to go down to the front, we have two that we'd like to recognize, and we'll ask Mr. Hall to come up and recognize a member of his staff first.
Had goals to go to college, and she went to college, and she was pursuing a degree in counseling. And it was in college that she had someone that inspired her, one of her instructors, her professors, and it changed her course to pursue education and to become a teacher. So she got her degree, and she stayed around a little bit in the East and taught preschool and special ed students. And she shared with me that that was probably one of the most rewarding experiences of her life, is teaching special needs children, especially that had parents that were struggling to be good parents. She moved to Arizona in 1994, and she taught for Chandler Unified School District, teaching kindergarten, second grade, and third grade. She taught in Chandler until 2004. In 2004, she married Brad Provost, and she moved up here to the Show Low area. And she's been a teacher for Show Low Unified School District since 2004, teaching third grade. She first taught for Show Low Primary School, and then she's been at Nicholas Homestead since the reconfiguration happened back in 2009. And we've been fortunate to have Miss Provost teach Nicholas Homestead. She's I consider her a very strong teacher, strong leader. Some of the things that I've appreciated about her is I think she has a wonderful ability to connect with with students that struggle in many areas, and maybe that's because of some of the things that she dealt with in her life. having empathy for what kids go through. That she seems to be able to take difficult children and help them progress and move along, and I've always marveled about that. She's willing to serve in many capacities. She's been a grade level leader in third grade for almost, I think, all of her time at Nicholas Homestead. She's done a great job leading our third grade team. She's been a safety team leader. It's been under her serving on that committee that I've really got a grasp of the incident command system, following the system of, when an incident happens, this is the structure that we need to follow. So I've enjoyed working her with that. She's good at aligning curriculum and helping students stay consistent in the grade level. She's always had compassion for kids that have needs. So she's been instrumental in our Shop with a Cop program, helping kids get what they need, working with Show Low Police Department and other agencies. And this one I consider a real strength is she's been instrumental in our kids, we call it the Kids Rock program, that it's a partnership with the city of Show Low. And we get to have our third graders learn about city government and our community. And we have those people come into our school and we go visit places around our community. I've appreciated the culture that's brought to our school to appreciate our Show Low community and those who work in our community. I'm going to let Mrs. Torres talk a little bit about what staff and students think about Ms. Provost.
So I went around the school and got some thoughts on Ms. Provost from teachers that work there and students, both current and past. The first one I'm going to start off with stuck with me a lot. It was a teacher who now teaches at Nicholas who was in Ms. Provost's third grade class a long time ago.
I'm getting it.
She stated that the one thing, she doesn't remember third grade that well, but the one thing that has stuck with her is that even after being in Ms. Provost's class, that whenever she saw her in the grocery store or getting gas, that Ms. Provost always checked in. It was kind of one of those once mine, always mine type of situation. And she feels that Ms. Provost has always given her all to children. Some of the other teachers' thoughts were she's very caring for her class. She teaches with energy and enthusiasm. Barb is very knowledgeable. She goes out of her way to help others, and she goes above and beyond for her students and coworkers. One teacher stated she's at school in the middle of the night if she needs to solve a problem. She doesn't know what she's going to do when she retires. Students. I did go and talk to past students who are now 4th and 5th graders. They said, Miss Provost always pushed us to do our best. And this is coming from a 4th grader. No matter what work was given to us, she pushed us to always do our best. She did help us understand the work and help us with it. She rewarded us for our hard work. She was always willing to do anything for her students. She goes above and beyond for her class. Her current students said they love being in Ms. Provost's class. She gives them a lot of help with reading. One did tell me she's very strict, but she's nice. And she is on our wall. I did take a couple things down from our wall where other staff can post. And one teacher put, "Thanks for all you do to make our school safe, keeping our safety binders updated." And another one wrote, "She cares so much about her students and their well-being. I don't know, or I admire how much she does for them overall." Thank you.
Well, as a final comment, Mrs. Provost is retiring after this year. She's given a lot of great service to Show Low Unified School District. She's a legendary staff member. Please celebrate with me, Ms. Barb Provost.
Gotta come and take a picture. Awesome. We'll invite Mrs. Clark and also Mrs. Marsh to come up. Mrs. Hall, you have to come up.
Thanks for having us here tonight, members of the board, Mr. Housley, and those in attendance. It's our pleasure to recommend Mrs. Karen Hall as a Show Low Unified School District legendary staff member. Mrs. Hall and I were chatting this morning, and she has been employed as a teacher at Show Low Unified School District for 30 years. And she said to me, "That's scary," but I think it's awesome. We were fortunate to have Mrs. Hall join the staff at Show Low Junior High in the 18-19 school year as a special education case manager. And I'm going to let Mrs. Marsh talk a little bit about some of the special ed things, and then I'll.
So ironically, when we came here 25 years ago and I entered the halls of Show Low Primary School then, Karen was right around the corner and one of the first faces that I met when I came here. So comes full circle. She is extremely efficient in her role as a special ed case manager. She very much sets the bar with her work ethic. She manages all of the paperwork, and there is a lot, and all of the meetings required, still finds time to manage the paraprofessionals that are under her, mentor and support new teachers. You can always find her giving them a helping hand and checking in on students. It's this work ethic that often has her on campus early before school and late after school, and maybe texting in the evening. She manages all of that at a breakneck pace and still manages to keep a smile on her face. I see very much her strength in her ability to connect and work with parents for success and well-being of her students. And especially during this time of school closure, lots of parent contacts, calling parents, following up with kids. And so that's taken a lot. Ever the teacher, Mrs. Hall takes time to listen to parents' concerns, reviews documents with parents during meetings, making sure they understand all of the verbiage, stopping to explain and review all of the details. Additionally, she is an advocate for her students and provides a safe place where they feel comfortable stopping by her office to check in, solve a problem, and visit. We are grateful for Mrs. Hall's many years of service and are pleased with this opportunity to recognize her as a legendary staff member. We value her contribution not only to the junior high, but to our special ed department. Thank you.
get a photo.
Yeah. Mrs. Hall and Mrs. Provost, thank you for helping to make Show Low Unified School District a great place to work and be for our kids and for our staff. Congratulations on your legendary staff.
Item 3.3, Superintendent Report. Mr. Hosley.
Madam President, members of the board, there's a couple of things that I just wanted to touch on briefly and have them down in case there are some questions about it. The first one was we're moving into winter sports. The official start date could have been or was on Monday. And there's a lot of questions that are up in the air. And I included inside your packet there. Perhaps I did. Yes, the Winter Sports Matrix. I wanted to make sure that you had that and you understood kind of what we're up against. Winter sports in particular at the high school, basketball and wrestling. And there's two separate matrix that's determined basically on cases per 100,000. For basketball to compete, it would be 100 cases per 100,000 in the county. Or the AIA said that we can also, if we could disaggregate the information outside in our district, if the county health department could do that, then it would be based on a district, not just county-wide. Also, it says for wrestling, I believe it's 75 per 100,000. And so currently, with the state of our county, we don't qualify to start for competition for those sports. But currently our teams are operating under open gym kind of processes where they're meeting. They aren't holding tryouts yet. They're not, practices aren't mandatory as of yet. And we're able to do that under the AIA guidelines, but not ready to, we can't hold we can't hold official practices or competitions at this point for those sports. A general kind of flavor for where we are as far as the community of Show Low, we're at about 120 cases per 100,000. The information that came out today, countywide, we were just over 200 cases per 100,000. And so there are spots in our community that would make that happen. Now, think about cases per 100,000. You take the population of Show Low. If I'm just estimating it at approximately 15,000 people per 100,000, we're looking at probably anywhere from 12 to 20 cases would push us over that in the matrix within our area. But our district runs from the Y in Vernon to Clay Springs, the other side of Clay Springs. So we're a little more narrow than just what the city of Show Low is. But I've been working with Mr. Lee from the county, and he's been giving us guidance. We talk regularly on what these numbers look like, and we'll see how it affects us moving forward. I'm more concerned about how it's going to affect the other schools around the state. Currently, by their own matrix, there's only two counties, Mojave and Cochise County, that would officially qualify in the matrix to participate. And they send out those updates every week also, just like the Department of Health Services. So I don't know if you have any questions about that, but that's kind of where the AIA matrix stands. I also just wanted to report that just last week, our soccer teams, boys and girls, both hosted a state tournament game here, and we're successful in those games and went on to play in the semifinals of the state tournament. The boys lost to Blue Ridge 2-0, who eventually won the state championship against Chino Valley 4-0. And then the girls lost to Northland Prep, who ended up winning the state championship. I believe they played Chino Valley in the state championship too. Was that right? Where did they play St. John's?
St. John's played Chino.
They played, and so they ended up winning the state title too. So both teams lost in the semis to the eventual state champions. And just a side note, our boys, first time in 7 years, they beat Blue Ridge during the regular season, and I believe that game was 4-0. So we played really well that day, and so we're just that close in those areas. Volleyball just concluded with their state game down at Push Ridge, and then football has a game this week in Phoenix against Valley Christian, and then it looks like we'll pick up one more game as there's been cancellations. Schools had to cancel games. Our Winslow game got canceled, and so we had another cancellation earlier in the year, so we're trying to pick up a game. Looks like it might be Fountain Hills for the last game of the year. So that's around our sports teams. And then I wanted to just share with you an initiative, and then I'll ask Mr. West to come up and talk a little bit about our progress with the SFB and certain projects, and give you just a little update on how those are going and the way that it works. A Walk in My Shoes initiative, I want to kind of share this initiative. It was conceptualized back in January, February of this year, put the kibosh with COVID-19 on it and kind of kept it on the back burner until this year, in November. The initiative puts me in the shoes of our teachers and our classified employees. And we randomly selected which school would start first, and that was Linden. And so I went out to Linden in their staff meeting on Friday and drew names. The building principal has the opportunity, or the director, to determine how those names will be collected. And those names that fulfill that task, it could be really simple, but it's at the discretion of those leaders at their sites. And I pulled out one name for a classified and one name for a certified teacher. And the Tuesday before, no, it's the Monday before Thanksgiving, I get to go be the music teacher for the day at Linden. I'm sorry ahead of time. I think I flunked out of my piano class in college, but we'll give it our best shot. I know Mrs. Ryder is worried about the quality of the substitute for the day. But I'm going to get to go and walk in her shoes for a day. And then Mrs. Perez is a special ed aide, and I'm going to get to spend the day with her, learning about what she does and learning a little bit about her. The only caveat for them is, number one, they have to let me do it. And then number two, I get to have lunch with them the next day. I'm going to sit down and provide a lunch for them, and we're going to just sit down and dialogue a little bit. The point of this is a couple-fold. One, I know when I first started here, it was really important for the board to have servant leaders. And one way to be a servant leader is to establish understanding of those whom you're trying to serve, and to build empathy and kindness. Empathy and kindness have been two initiatives that we've worked on for the last couple of years. And I felt like it was a good opportunity for me to get in the classroom or in the school environment and to build empathy for students and for the staff that we have working, to remember what it's like to walk in their shoes. And so a little bit of a play on words there. They're not walking in my shoes. I'm going to go walk in their shoes and try to learn as much as I can about the successes and the challenges that they face in their classrooms and in the school environment. And we're going to bring that, I'm going to journal that experience, and it's going to be in our weekly newsletter, going to come out in that newsletter. There's going to be a tab on there that says a Walk in My Shoes initiative. And then we're also going to highlight that experience here at a board meeting, and highlight those individuals and what they do for our school district outside of our legendary staff piece there. So I'm excited about it. It gives me we talk about going and doing things that you're passionate about, and I got into education because I'm passionate about teaching, passionate about being in the school environment, and this is going to allow me to be in those school environments. My first shot at it will be next week with Mrs. Perez. So then the following week I'll be the substitute in the music program. She is worried I will mess up the Linden Christmas program, but I think one day we'll be okay. And so I'm very hopeful. Anyways, the last thing that I'd like to report on is bring Mr. Schubert, or not Mr. Excuse me, Mr. West. He's been called a lot of things. Mr. West, come on. When he was hired, he was called Mr. Smith. He is not Mr. Smith. He's Mr. West. So apologize, Mr. West.
Is it the glasses?
Haircut. Is the haircut? Hair growth.
Anyways, he's here to help us walk through a little bit. Part of our bond was to expand some of the money through school facilities board. So Mr. West, if you would like to share some of the things that we got going on, coming to a conclusion, and your report would be great.
Sure, thank you. So, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Housley. We've talked about the bond project or the SFB projects often, but let me kind of do a real quick recap. So, the Whipple Ranch roofing project was completed towards the spring, and as of right now, knock on wood, it is holding steady. We have no leaks in that building for the first time in a long time. Another project that we just completed was the roof at the junior high. It wasn't a complete roofing project. It was over 2 small wings. It was over the boys and girls locker rooms and what was the computer lab and art room, which extended over to the kitchen. That project has been completed. As of last Friday, there's still a couple of touch-ups that they have to do. There was a seal coating that has to be put on. They came in last Thursday to beat the weather because the roofing company is out of the valley. So they assume that our weather is like their weather. So they were just wanting to delay this project. And it's like, I gave them a window and an email. So you have 2 days before it snows. So if you're going to get this done, it needs to be done now. So I did come up and do that. And we thought we had a leak at the junior high this week. And we just found out today that we have a surprise sink up in the mezzanine for some reason at the junior high. So we're trying to figure out why that's there and how to get it to stop leaking into the hallway above the boys and girls locker room.
A sink in the mezzanine.
It's a sink like a
sink.
something sinking, or like a
No,
sink like
a-
there's pipes in the
Like
wall.
a sink with pipes.
Oh, wow.
We don't know why it's up there.
It's an industrial arts project.
It was the high school.
Unfortunately for Mrs. Clark, her school has all kinds of surprises, and this is another new one. So we are working on that project right now. The other projects that we have going on right now is the bleachers have finally been completed at the high school. So the entire high school gym project for the SFB, it was actually 3 different projects, is now 100% complete. The only exception to that is on the bleachers. There's a couple areas at the top that the railings didn't come in. With the original shipment, it takes them 1 day to install them, but it doesn't affect how the bleachers are currently used. So with that, it's nice to have that project finally concluded. And I want to kind of just explain some of the delays that some of these projects have had, especially with the bleachers and the gym itself. So when the original gym floor was replaced, that came with an HVAC upgrade. So the HVAC started before the floor was done. As the floor just got finished, then it went into our third project, which was the bleachers. As the bleachers were being installed, the contractor that was installing the bleachers hit a water pipe into one of the walls, which then flooded 1/3 of the brand new basketball court. So we got the trust involved in that project for an insurance mitigation plan. It was determined that 1/3 of that had to be removed. The SFB had to work with the insurance company to approve all of the changes that needed to happen. So we lost our gym for several months as it went through a new drying process. They had to remove the floor, reinstall the floor. And in the process, we had to have another company come in to do the repairs in the wall that was caused by the flood as well. During that process, it was determined by the contractor that they didn't want to install the bleachers any longer until they had a structural report done on the building. What had happened, the original bleachers that we had in Sholo sat about 18 inches or so shorter than the new ones. So they were put into an actual metal beam across the bottom with the new 18-inch extension to add seating to the gym. It didn't have beam support, so we had to hire a structural engineer to come in, determine what needed to happen. We had to have steel beams put in behind the new bleachers top, which took some time because we had to get change orders from the school facilities board to make sure that happened and it was done correctly. There was inspections that had to happen after that, which is what caused the main delay. Had they not hit the water line, and had the bleachers that we had replaced not been extended, then they would have been able to put it in the original support beam. None of this mess would happen. But that wasn't the case, so that's what delayed that process. I believe the volleyball team had their last game, so it was their first home game as our last game in our gym just a couple weeks ago. That was nice for them to be able to end their season at least in their home gym. The other projects that we've had accomplished so far is we've had the weatherization project, which was the new painting and seal coating and windows at Whipple Ranch Elementary School. Sholo Junior High School and Sholo High School have all had those weatherization projects concluded. Whipple Ranch had some delays. They broke a window as they were installing them. They busted a window, and that took several weeks to get a new window in place. There is one outstanding spot at the junior high weatherization project. They painted the entire school, and they left the very last section by Cougar Lane. They didn't paint the trim or the fascia at the top of the building. I addressed that with the painter last week. They'll be here Monday to finish that piece. The architect did not include that in the weatherization project because it's a metal, and he said that would become a maintenance issue. Well, all paint is a maintenance issue, so it should have been painted. The SFB agreed that it should be painted, so it'll be painted on Monday, because according to the weather, it should be a good day for that. But other than that, I just kind of wanted to go over a kind of a walkthrough a little bit, because I know sometimes there's questions, right? It's like we don't always understand if this is what we're doing and then this happens, why can't we just go to this step? So I did a little bit of research. So in 2001, Sholo Unified School District they had a lot of projects with the School Facilities Board. After 2001, there was nothing with the SFB until 2015. In 2015, there was just a few little things that were done. There was some projects out at Linden with the septic system and things like that, but there was no significant projects from 2001 to 2015. In 2017, there was a couple projects that were submitted to the SFB, but never went anywhere. The applications were submitted in like April and May of that year. And the projects, like for an example, the Whipple Ranch Elementary roof, it was actually submitted to the School Facilities Board in May of 2017, but it wasn't awarded until October of 2018. And some of the issues that happened is like, so with the School Facilities Board, we have a liaison. That's a person that represents the state. They'll come up and meet with the director of maintenance, and they walk the schools with us. The person that we had previous to 2018 was pretty much adversarial. Was one of those individuals that didn't matter what the district needed, didn't feel it was important, always denied project. In 2018, the School Facilities Board did a realignment of their liaisons. We got one that worked in maintenance in a small district down south, and her and I we have a really good working relationship. I'm on the phone with her weekly to just discuss projects, update her on things, and see what we need to do. So when that was awarded in October of 2018, there was a whole bunch of different hoops and hiccups that were happening with the roof. So it took us from October of 2018 to May of 2020 to complete that project. It's one of the longest SFB projects I've ever seen. In my 6 years of being a director in maintenance, I didn't understand. I still today don't understand the exact reason why that project took so long, other than the process have changed. The School Facilities Board, they meet once a month, just as this board does. So there's application processes, and then we have to do assessments. Those assessments take some time. Another example of that is like the high school. We all know that the high school roof has leaked for a long time. I was told by a member of the community that we have students that have named mold in their classrooms. I've inspected the high school. I know there's no mold inside that building. We've had it tested. However, the roof leaks. So I submitted an application in August to the School Facilities Board for the high school roof. It was approved in September, and we had a assessment just finished up. It just concluded from a Red Tree consultant out of the valley. They come up and assess the roof, and it's been determined that that roof has failed. So at this point, we now go into a design phase. So there's a new application that I have to fill out and submit to the School Facilities Board for design. And before I can do that application process, the architect and the consultant will now review the reports, and they'll come up with the best practicum of what needs to happen next for the roof. An example of that is one of the suggestions that was given to us by the assessment team was that we need to replace the metal roof with shingles. Well, that worked on Whipple Ranch because it's a brick and mortar school, whereas the high school is a metal building. You can't put shingles on a metal building because there's nothing to support that. We'd have to completely, rip the entire roof off, have plywood and things put back on there. But the structural weight of that in itself is too much for the school, and it would collapse the roof of the school. So our architect that we use, his name is Bob Polkar. He used to live down the valley. He now has moved his operations to Sedona. But he is working with not only the original architect of the building, but the original the people. So we have the designer as well as the contractor that oversaw the building of the high school. And the material that they've used, of course, the original manufacturer no longer is in operation, but they have sold their business to another major metal building company, which they happen to have a branch right here in Show Low. So he's working with that company to figure out what they can do for the roof, to whether they can either repair it or if we need to just take it off and replace it with new metal. That's kind of the process that it takes. One thing I did forget to do is I was going to give you an actual number of how much money the School Facilities Board has saved the district. We have reports that we submit to the state for that. And I remember, I'm not sure if Ms. Beecroft saw it, but it's somewhere in the range of about $24 million that we have used of School Facilities Board money from just last year. So in the last 2 years, that's what we've used of the school facilities money. So I don't know if you have any questions about any of the process or where we are.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. West. That's a lot to take on.
Madam President, that concludes my report this evening.
Item. Call to the audience. Is there anything? Item 3.5, future board agenda items. Anyone? No. Item 4.1, approval of overnight and out-of-state travel. Mr. Housley.
Madam President, members of the board, I want to make sure that we have a little bit of a conversation prior to this. There are a number of things that are out for our approval, but based on the matrix that was put out, based on the things that we have from the Department of Ed and the Department of Health Services, I just wanted to allow some time for the board to have some discussions about travel and what your feelings are, kind of some directions from you prior to approving these on how we might want to proceed in the upcoming future, and with the current state of the way things are. I just want to make sure that there's some conversation provided for you here around travel and how you felt about it.
Any thoughts, John?
No, I just want to be, we just need to be smart. I want to take my family on a vacation this month. It doesn't look like it's going to happen because where we want to go is going a little crazy on COVID. So we just need to be smart. I hesitate to say this, but I've always been afraid of Mexico. So but I support that because I know that that's a great experience for the kids. I do worry about their safety sometimes, but I'm okay with traveling as long as we're smart with it. If we have to cancel on a moment's notice, I'm okay with that too, and I think that's better for our kids and our staff to be safe than put them in harm's way.
Carol?
I'm a lot the same. I feel like common sense is a key issue in how we go about this. I think it's important that things remain in place and we plan and prepare to facilitate activities and athletics for our kids, and let the parents decide if their kids will attend. Let them decide as a family or individuals how that'll roll out. But I'm okay with travel. I just think we use common sense, like John says. If we're a little become concerned, we cancel.
Grant?
I share the same sentiment. I think we plan like we normally would and let parents decide if they want to send their kids or not. So leave that in their hands. And that was kind of the position I took back in July when we talked about whether or not we were going to allow our fall sports to proceed. And I think that's I don't think I've seen anything that would cause me to deviate from that at this point.
I feel the same way.
With that, then, Madam President, I bring before you a number of out-of-state or overnight travel for your approval. It includes the travel for the Spanish Club to Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico, the Spirit Line to the national competition. It could be canceled. They're unsure. They're here right now for us. Also, boys basketball and girls basketball. Those are all games and tournaments and wrestling that hinge on Matrix and even being able to participate in those. But we certainly would like to plan on those academic competitions, get those approvals from you, and then plan as if we were going. And if the competition is not available at the time that we're going to go, then we won't attend.
Are we going to discuss too about the national, the Spirit Line attending the national competition? Is that something we should do right now as well?
Have they not attended that before?
Last year, I think.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So why are we worried about it?
We just want to get your blessing.
It's a lot of money and
We got it.
for financial. We want to make sure that we're doing right by our community that supports us, parents that support us.
We'll go out and win it this year.
Come on,
Bring it home.
We'd love to.
come up here and Ms. Cunningham, can you come talk to us up in a microphone so the two people sitting at home watching this can hear you?
Home.
Yeah.
Just with times being so troubled, we have always felt that these kids need to get back busy because I watch my own children and staying busy and doing what they love. Because right now, this is their experience, regardless of the world and its craziness. But it is a big financial obligation for families, the community that we do ask to support us. And before we pursued that, that's what we wanted to kind of get your blessing on, because it is a big financial push for us.
I'll just make a comment. I don't know. They're going to have a run on after this with the vast audience that we have, but I've spoken to two of the largest donors in the area who donate to youth activities and stuff, and they said they have a lot in their reserves that they normally allocate, but nobody's asked them for it because they kind of have this idea that, like, well, times are tough, people are uncertain about COVID, but they have money and they want to spend it, and they just don't have people asking for it. So,
Well, send me some names. I know
Talk
some
after-
people
we'll
that would be
talk
happy
after
to
this.
ask.
so
No,
yeah, I
we
think
had a
it's
car
good
wash a
opportunity.
few months back, and we made bank.
Mhm.
I was shocked. We have never made that kind of money from this community on a car wash, but we did very well.
And they
so,
thanked us for
so they're out there.
being out there working and not hiding, which was great.
Anyway, so with that said, that's kind of why we wanted to pitch it to you first before I start pushing families and kids, because like I said, there's a financial obligation there. Obviously, it's in Anaheim, so who knows what that's going to be like. But
We took fifth
We'll face
last
it.
time out of 360 teams.
we did good.
So we plan on bringing it home.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids.
So nationals competition. We need it up on the mountain. So
Madam President, members of the board, it has been very refreshing to be able to take an approach to, as you've you've all outlined, and one that we can get our kids back involved in doing things that excite them. And the things that are outlined for you tonight are certainly those things that excite these kids and motivate them to do great things. So it would be my recommendation that you approve the overnight and out-of-state travel.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any further discussion?
Mhm.
Do these guys, do you guys get enough direction that we bless it and we want you to go do it?
We're excited.
I think it's awesome.
We'll hear it all the way home.
I had some of my girls here, but they have Feast of Carols. This is a crazy, so they had to jet. But
And so we would
we are
like to-
super excited.
And we would like to invite you on December 5th. We are going to have a virtual competition. So it's just going to be our girls.
It will actually be here on the mountain because of the way the Nationals Forum is right now virtually, which is new. So our girls will actually get to perform a competition routine in front of their home crowd.
So if you guys would like to come, see what these girls can do.
Can you send out a reminder?
Yeah,
invite?
women wear and all that.
Yes. Thank
Sure
you.
will. Okay, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Probably get that on the district website too.
Item 5.1, approval of resignations, retirements, and terminations. Mr. Housley.
The following individuals are outlined for your approval this evening. Gavin McAnally, Junior High Social Studies, Susan Decker, Esteban Corral, Rebecca Bukoya, and Audra Vera. We would ask for your approval of these individuals this evening.
I'll move to approve resignations, retirements, and terminations.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any further discussion? Motion passes. Item 5.2, approval of new hires, renewals, and transfers.
Oh, sorry.
I missed one.
Those were
the resignation.
Oh, did I do new hires? Did I read it? I read
Yeah.
off new hires. I apologize. Can we go back to
5.1?
5.1?
Yep.
I read off the wrong one. I'm sorry. We just need to, there's several resignations and retirements, and we'd ask for your approval of 5.1 as outlined.
All motion we approve 5.1.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5.2, approval of new hires, renewals, and transfers. Mr. Housley.
Those were the individuals' names who I read earlier.
Can you read it again?
I would ask for your approval of those individuals this evening.
Entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5.3, approval of substitutes. Mr. Housley.
We have a couple of substitutes for your approval this evening. Amy Heiser, Claire Hines, Anna Marsh, and Nancy May. They are substitutes. They work for ESI, but we like your approval to use them in our district.
All motion we approve.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5.4, approval of stipends, volunteers, and event workers.
The following individuals for your consideration: a practicum student, Katie Whiting, event workers, Dustin Grant and Autumn Garvin, Winter Athletics boys head basketball coach, Troy Cook, girls basketball coaches, Mike Brogan, Mike Ellsworth, and Kevin Kerr, wrestling coach, Brian Ryan, and then spirit line coaches, Deanne Cunningham and Rachel Walker, for your approval this evening.
Make a motion to approve stipends, volunteers, and event workers.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 6.1, approval of second reading of policy advisories 672 through 676. Mr. Housley.
Madam President, for 6.1 through 6.3, I would invite you to approve those as second readings and adopt them into policy as outlined. The one that we mentioned last time that had some verbiage that needed to be there, that's already in policy. We reviewed those policies and made sure that that verbiage was already there, and that was to define what inadequacy of classroom performance was. That's already in our policy. So we'll just maintain that verbiage as it's out. So 6.1, we're on 6.1, but that would apply for all of those.
Motion we approve?
I don't approve. There's several of these policies that I don't like. I don't like the cloth face coverings in all of these. I think that it goes beyond even with the CDC recommendation. This doesn't even allow people to not wear a face mask on district property or district of facilities or district events, even if they can maintain social distancing. So there's several portions in here where I think I was clear last time I didn't agree with that. So I don't think that we want to go that restrictive. I also noticed that there's no enforcement mechanism. So I think it's going to be unduly burdensome on staff, as well as, if this escalates, I think it's going to require us to bring in local law enforcement where there's really not even procedures in this for this. So I think that I don't agree with several of these policies that require cloth face coverings that are even more restrictive than the CDC recommendation. So I'm not sure why those are in here tonight.
Those are in there reflecting of the Executive Order 2020-51. That's how this policy was written in accordance to Executive Order 2020-51. If I were to...
Well, Executive Order 2050-51 allows for face coverings if they don't mandate face coverings if you can maintain social distancing, and this policy doesn't do that.
So we can make that adjustment as outlined there. That's the purpose of the second reading, right? So also one other adjustment, it could be the policy in there says that it is recommended for students our children 2 and over. That's inside the CDC guidelines, and we hold it at 5 or over, which is other guidance so there's conflicting guidance. So whether you 2 and over, our practice is 5 and old, they have to be older than 5. So we don't require currently in our current practice to have students that are 5 wear face coverings. And then if you wanted to delete the portions that say on school grounds, if we want to put in the verbiage, we certainly could make those adjustments pretty easy to do.
You want to make those adjustments and bring it back? Because I don't.
You can. Mm-hmm.
I would move then that we table item 6.1 and that it comes back before us with modified language for the December meeting.
Do you want to just table? You want to table the whole, all of them, or just the ones on face covering?
How about I do this? I will move that we approve item policy CGQE, policy BEC, IHAMD. Brandy, tell me if you are having problems following. Policy IHA, policy KB, IHA, and KB, and that we approve those second readings as they've been outlined today. And I would move that we table item or policy GBGBR, JICARB, JICARB, and KIRB until the December meeting, when different verbiage can be brought back before the board.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any further discussion? Motion passes. Item 7.1, bond update. Mr. Housley.
We just did.
I know, I thought maybe you wanted to add some more. Oh,
6.1. We did.
we're not doing, I thought we did 6.1 through 6.3.
I just did on 6.1. Now we need to do 6.2
Okay,
and
6.2,
6.3.
approval of second reading of policy IHA Basic Instructional Program.
So this was this outlines the basic instructional program. It includes the includence of Sandra Day O'Connor Civic Celebration Day, which the governor declared would be September 25th of each year, or the day before, the day after, if that falls on a non-school, non-operation day. So that's for your second reading today. That's the change in that.
I'll motion to approve second reading of policy IHA with the tagline that I actually took. Sandra Day O'Connor was a professor of mine when I was in law school, and she was a huge proponent of civics as well as the judiciary being an independent, separate body of the executive and the legislative body. And that was one of her passions. And so I think it's great that we're doing something like this. And I hope that our teachers and our staff who get to participate in this take that same spirit that Sandra Day O'Connor has worked tirelessly for her whole adult life. So she's a great mentor and leader that we could all emulate.
I'll entertain a motion.
Just motion.
I need a second.
We're waiting for a second.
They're dozing
Sorry.
off over there.
I got long-winded.
That was a long motion.
It was a very long motion.
I'll second it though.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item
You
3.
didn't ask for opposed.
Oh, are you opposed, John? Opposed?
Yes,
Okay. You're opposed, really?
Yes.
Are you really?
yes.
I can't believe it. Okay, John's opposed. Motion still passes. Item 6, do you want to discuss it any further then?
Nope.
You sure? Okay.
I'm
It's a
positive.
lot of, we're going to be
My
here till-
wife told me many times I don't have to say everything I think all the time. So I think this will be one of those times.
Told my
I'll-
children that
I need to
also.
learn that, John.
So now you're going to take her advice?
I'm going to take her advice right now.
We're going to try to have the longest meeting ever and have this get over about 9:30.
Nope, let's go.
Item 6.3, approval of second reading of policy advisory 651 through 669. Mr. Housley.
There were some general changes to some of those that you reviewed in the first reading. The newest policy has to do with staff use of digital wireless communications or electronic devices while driving. That's nothing new to us as motorists, but it now is in policy. And so then also IHAMD, instruction and training of suicide prevention. That's part of the requirement by statute. We have actually already started some of the training that's required by statute as far as that's concerned. And then screening and testing of students, vision screening for children. And the Lions Club came in and have taken care of that. Those are all reflective of new statutes and the law that came out of the last legislative session.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve item 6.1, approval of second reading policy advisory 651 through 669.
I'll second.
All in favor?
6.3, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any further discussion? Motion passes. Item 7.1, bond update.
Nothing new on the bond, and we went over the things with the SFB Mr. West presented to us. And so, Madam President, if it's okay with the board, we'll just move on to the next item.
Item 7.2, discussion and approval of 2021 substitute pay rates. Mr. Hosley.
Madam President, for your consideration and the boards here, we've outlined the sub rates. In there, you'll notice that there is a slight increase in the regular sub rate. The sub rates of a regular sub at $96, certified sub at $105, retired sub at $130, and then a long-term sub, which is 20 or more consecutive days, would be at $120 for regular, and a retired sub under that same thing would maintain the $130 per day if they were retired from teaching and in a long-term situation.
I'll entertain a motion.
I will motion we approve. We're going to visit this again.
This is coming up again.
You guys want to have a discussion? I'd like to see in the next year when we do our budget that we increase our certified rates. Reflect. I know with minimum wage or even our classified need to be bumped up, but I'd like to see our certified get bumped up also. and especially long-term pay. I know we're not able to do it this year. I think we should revisit it.
And we can do that.
Grant?
I think we should revisit it. I don't think fiscally right now we can do it, but I wish we could. I hope that in the near future we can.
And I hope that our substitutes will understand that we can't this year, and that our wish is to, but it's just not, it's not there.
You second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any further discussion? Motion passes. Item 7.3, discussion and approval of employee attendance stipends. Mr. Hosley?
Madam President, members of the board, for your approval, sorry. We have, we're on 7. Yes. Your approval of the outlined employee attendance stipends. As would be noted, that these are attendance stipends that happen typically the pay period right before Christmas. And these have had a long history of being provided to kind of help in the classified area, in particular, to supplement some of the things that teachers would receive through Proposition 301. So we have those for your consideration this evening.
Ten or 12 years ago, I sat in a school board meeting and watched the district make a really hard decision, the school board make a really hard decision, close my kid's school to improve the financial situation in the district. And I believe that was a hard decision for the board to make. It was hard on my family. You know, it upset the dynamics of our home situation. And so it was for the betterment of the district to do that financially. Though this is a hard thing, I think we need to hold this money for the betterment of the financial situation where the district's at currently, to help recover that. I don't really see any other way that there's a way to recover this, to get the finances back in order. It's unfortunate. I know there are people that are counting on this money right off the bat. They've expected it. And I don't know any other way to recover it other than to hold this, and hopefully there's a way we can make this up later. But and I don't really feel like it's an easy decision, but I watched the school board then, you know, go around and around about trying to make that decision. And it went through this process 3 or 4 times. And finally, somebody from the audience, the wife of one of the school board members, said, I see good people trying to make the best decision. And that's what I feel the best decision is at this point, for the betterment of the financial circumstances of the district. It won't be easy on the people that are counting on these funds, but that's really the only place we have to pull from.
Grant?
I don't disagree with Daryl. I think that it's a very difficult decision, and that's what we're elected to do as a representative democracy, is to figure out these tough choices for the people. But I don't know that we've exhausted all remedies and all efforts to make sure that that this is a last resort. I feel like some questions still need to be answered, and some, sharpen our pencils and look at where's other areas we could cut before we start cutting teachers' pay and staff pay and our administrative pay. I know our administrative team hasn't gotten pay raises where other people have, and I think that we're in a very competitive market where we have a teacher shortage going on at the state level and the national level. And when we do something like this, I think that it just puts us at a further disadvantage to other districts within our area and within the state. And so I feel like it might be an answer that's readily available, but I don't know that it's a creative solution, that we've exhausted all of our resources. And so that's why I am very hesitant to vote and take money away from teachers when I don't feel like we've really explored every single rabbit hole that we could to find money. So that's my thoughts on it.
John, you have any thoughts?
I agree with both ends. I was part of those difficult decisions back then that you're talking about, and I appreciate the fact that Daryl has shared what he shared. There are no easy answers and no easy decisions. It's not a win-win situation. I'm wondering if not necessarily at this point that we commit to giving these or not giving these, but if we can continue to search a little bit more of some other ways that we can find yet hold these. Is that possible? Do you understand what I'm saying, or am I not articulating very well?
No, I understand.
And bring it back in December.
We can certainly bring it back in December. I'm not, some of the outliers that we're looking at as possible solutions. The timeline, that's what's creating such a difficult time of exploring the rabbit holes, right? Some of those answers are a little bit later with some of the funds we're looking at. So
we're not going to know any more or any less in a month than we know now.
We may know a little bit more of Ms. Beecroft, but
And these stipends are for every employee, not just teachers.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
what I'm
every
saying. It's
district-wide. And
every
yeah.
employee.
So we're waiting on our official award for the enrollment stability grant. That will give us, if we're really, really optimistic, close to $1 million. If for some reason, because they take a lot of different things into account, our distance learning and a lot of different variables, it could be as little as $300,000, which that money has kind of already been kind of allocated where we'd kind of stitch things up elsewhere. But certainly.
When will we get that notification, Ms. Beecroft?
So last year we received a similar letter and we didn't adjust our budget down. So we are expecting a letter in January or February with the mandatory reduction.
So they just crack off another letter?
Yeah, I mean, they'll withhold the funds. So either we reduce the budget or leave things unpaid.
But they'll send another letter in January if we don't?
They'll send the letter in January, February to address last year.
But you said they'll just hold the fund.
They'll withhold the funds, and then we have to leave things unpaid, which is the dilemma in going ahead and endorsing this 100%. I absolutely want to, but to be fiscally responsible, the money's not sure.
So what things would go unpaid?
Vendors. I mean, salaries and benefits would be the priority. That's been the priority. I will say last year that we carried over several months of bills, insurance payments, things like that, which I'm not a fan of doing that. But I mean, they have the power to, withhold the funds, and then we live with what we get.
Have they ever withheld funds from us before?
Yeah.
When did that occur?
It was earlier on, probably under Mr. Seaman.
You don't know what year, though?
I don't know exactly the year.
I think we have time. I mean, if we get an answer and the best case scenario, like Vanessa was talking about, it comes in that we have the high end of that we're hoping in the next few days, then we could have a clearer picture by December on whether or not we are able to make good on these payments that our teachers and our staff are expecting. I think that we wait till December.
I think that's, if we have the time, does that put you in a crunch to wait for another month?
So the directive from the state is by December 18th, we're supposed to submit a revised budget, reducing it to $600,000 or so. So yeah, we kind of need to, where's that reduction going to come from?
I mean, couldn't we come back in December and have like 3 or 4 scenarios of having, these are the areas we're going to cut, and this is what it's going to mean to the district, and these are how it's going to impact employees and impact education and transportation and all those kind of things, and then we can make a decision.
Sure.
And then that would give you time to revise the budget and send it off to the Department of Education.
Can you do it between the 10th and the 18th?
I was going to say, what days the board meeting fall on?
On the 10th.
I know there were some questions about the December board meeting date, about the 10th, and that might be a struggle for some of you to be at that date. If we held it a little bit earlier in the month, would that help the timeline on the other end?
I do it on the 3rd.
Like on the 3rd?
That's fine with me. I don't have any issues moving that to the 3rd.
Carol, does it work for you?
I'm in favor of that. That gives Vanessa some more time less time to put stuff together, but more time to put stuff together.
I think the
Thank you,
water.
Daryl.
I think the waters will become more clear. We'll have a definitive answer by, I would hope by then, and then we could instead of it kind of being a little bit of speculation, it would be a little bit more clear exactly what cuts need to be made and which ones don't, and that would give us a definitive path that we need to go down, or 2 or 3 options, right? Like, I think that we need to really look at all options before we start cutting teacher or staff pay. I want to say
so
teachers.
just to clarify also, so last year when we got this letter, because this letter comes every year, it was essentially ignored and we didn't reduce the budget down. So that's the letter that's going to be coming in January, February.
But they didn't do anything last year with was there any ramifications for ignoring the letter last year?
It's coming in January or February.
So
of
there
what
hasn't,
dollar amount that is to us,
but that hasn't been yet.
in addition to this reduction.
Yeah, but there hasn't been any ramifications yet at this point.
No.
Would also, if like, let's hope for the best, right, and plan for the worst. But if we hope for the best and it actually comes to fruition, if on the 3rd we meet and it comes in at the high end, would we be able to allocate this attendance stipend to our teachers before Christmas or before the holiday break? Would that be possible, Mr. Housley?
I'm trying to think of when the pay periods fall. When,
Let me look at the.
if it's moved to the 3rd, if it was on the 10th, I think it would be really hard the way the pay periods fall and the way payroll falls out. But the 3rd might give us a better.
Yeah, so the pay periods in December are December 4th and December 18th.
We could meet that.
So we'd have to process for December 4th. We process on November 30th.
Yeah, I would say.
So then it would be the 18th is when we would project.
Let's move our meeting to the 3rd. We'll picture the hopefully we'll have some better answers by then, and by that time we can have a clearer, definitive picture of what exactly we have to do. So I guess with that, I'll move that we table item number 7.3 to our December meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 7.4, discussion and approval of classified employee extra duty stipends. Mr. Housley.
Madam President, members of the board, for your consideration this evening, we've Ms. Beecroft has outlined a number of things there, and I'll allow her some time to report on this item.
Okay, so basically what we're trying to do here in the past, we've had coaching stipends or additional duty stipends available to certified staff members, so mainly teachers. There's been a number of issues, and different districts on the mountain deal with it in different ways. So what we submitted to the attorney was try to come up with a way for our district to be able to include classified staff to be able to get paid an extra duty stipend, which would also allow them to be coaches. In the past, because of exemption status or not under the Fair Labor Standards Act with overtime and whatnot. It's just been kind of tricky without some language. So the extra duty stipend addendum is attached for your review and will allow us to use classified staff as coaches. So in particular, we have Mr. Moya, who I think maybe just left. He has been acting in this capacity. Previously, Mrs. Moya acted in the capacity essentially as a volunteer. We weren't able to pay them due to their classifications. So with this, we would also like to ask that we can retro the stipend to Mr. Moya, who has been fulfilling the duties of the assistant cheer coach since the beginning of the school year. So going forward, it would just, I think it just helps us overall to be able to utilize, quality coaches, whether or not they're certified or qualified.
No, every employee would have a stipend classified with this amendment, if we pass it.
With this helps us structure it so that an hourly employee could actually qualify to be a coach and be paid for that.
I'll move to approve item 7.4, the classified employee extra duty stipends.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 7.5, approval of grants through ADE for MTBS, PBIS.
Madam President, members of the board, one thing in our strategic plan that was important to us moving forward is that we have our schools start to take up programs that encourage positive behavior or character education. And last year or so, Whipple Ranch Elementary applied for the PBIS grant, which is has provided them the opportunity to learn and implement PBIS in their school. The junior high this year applied for that same grant and was recently awarded that grant. It's a multi-tier behavioral support system. Positive behavior intervention supports is what PBIS stands for. And so beginning in December, as a awardee of the grant, the junior high's team will begin onboarding of that process. And kind of the way that it works is we pay for the upfront pieces of this, and then their state reimburses us through the grant, and then they take year 2 and 3 of the implementation on through the grant. And so it's a fully funded grant at the end of it, and our staff will be trained in PBIS. And Whipple Ranch is neck deep in the training right now. Mrs. Hall, she traveled all the way to a virtual meeting today for that PBIS structure. And if you have any questions, certainly they.
Want to talk about it a little bit, Debbie or Charla, what it looks like at your school?
So it's not.
Debbie has it, and
Debbie,
Becky has
Debbie
it.
has it.
The grant, your first year's. Zoning in on our tier 3 behavior. Tier 1. Tier 2 for those students with a little more help. Our tier not really something we don't. So there's a team and the grant. I think there was. And they only. So this is our again. Really nice. Really Nicholas get in there too. Nice that they're thinking about positive. All those. We did find out last year at our training that if you're currently a PBIS school, your schools have a greater chance that grant. We're learning that just really teaches instead of focus on the negative, that our have experience and we acknowledge the positive stress. We were in do it every other month. We wouldn't be able to afford to do it without days.
Thank you, Mrs. Hall. You guys have any questions? Okay.
I'd ask that you approve the acceptance of this grant for the junior high.
I'll motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I just want to say the process we go through to obtain these grants, and I think we should show some appreciation to those people who put that effort forth and allow us to do some things we normally wouldn't be allowed to be able to do.
And item 8.1 through 8.4, consent agenda. Mrs. Beecraft.
So for your review and approval, we have the ratification of all the expense vouchers, 8.2, ratification of the payroll vouchers, 8.3, the approval of the minutes for the October meeting and the two meetings in October, and 8.4, the approval of donation.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any further discussion?
Thank you for the donations.
Yes, always. Motion passes. Item 9.1, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Also motion.
I think we need to move to go into executive session as opposed to adjourn. And then we adjourn when we come out of executive session.
What's on here, Brett? Okay, I move to go into entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I'll move we go into executive session to do Mr. Housley's annual evaluation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thanks, everybody.
Board.
Are we gonna-